This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody. It's time for the mailbag and also our preview and prediction show for the SummerSlam event that's taking place in just a couple of days or in just a day. Depends on when you're listening to this. A lot to talk about, a lot to get through. So let's just do that as patrons are going to get priority here. I don't know if I'm going to get through everybody. I really don't. I'm a little bit limited on time. I'm traveling tomorrow. So I'm going to get through the mailbag as quick as I can and then get through the predictions in about 40 minutes. Let's see if that actually happens. All right. By the way, you can join Patreon. Good time to do it because everything is ad-free. You get a Discord server, and you can have a great time over the Discord server with all the other patrons and wrestling fans, and you can also get it for free for 7 days. So I think that's a pretty good deal. Free. Ad-free. All right, let's go to DJ Kuzma. We haven't started off with you in a while. And he says, finally, SummerSlam is almost here. Interesting to think that if this year's SummerSlam was a 2-night event, what match do you think would have main evented night 2? With all the rumors of Roman returning this Saturday, it made me think that to simpler times of the forgotten 2020 SummerSlam of 4 years ago when no one knew Roman would return and debut as a heel. I mean, I think if it was night 2, it would be Solo and Cody. No questions asked. But you can also make an argument for Drew and Punk. But everything is about that WWE Championship around Cody's waist. And if the Roman Reigns returns, then yeah, you gotta... If there was a night 2, it would be that match. All right, so here's your predictions, DJ. For Bayley and Nia for the Women's Championship, you're thinking Nia Jax wins due to Naomi costing Bayley the match. Yes, I said it. I think we get a Naomi heel turn as Queen Nia and Tiffy Time laugh and mock Bayley. I don't mind that. I think that's a pretty smart call, and I would love it because Naomi is doing exactly nothing. So I think that's a great thing for her to be somewhat relevant. All right, let's go to the next match here, Rhea and Morgan. And for the Women's World title, you're predicting that Liv retains with the outside help from either Dirty Dom or Finn. For LA Knight and Logan Paul for the U.S. title, you're thinking LA Knight wins due to a failed attempt from either Logan or his crew of trying to use the brass knucks behind the ref's back. Plus, it's time for LA Knight to win a title on the main roster. It's hard for me to respond to this without giving away my predictions, but Sammy versus Braun Breaker for the IC Championship. You're thinking Breaker wins as this will be the crowning moment in his young career on the main roster, but for Sammy, I think this begins his involvement with the Bloodline reunion as he and Jay could potentially go after the World Tag Team Championships first before the inevitable OG Bloodline reunion. You're very smart on these picks, DJ. I'll leave it at that. Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa for the Undisputed Championship. You're thinking Cody retains and we get the infamous return of you-know-who. Damian Priest versus Gunther, World Heavyweight Championship. I'm predicting that Gunther will win, even though Priest has improved as champ against the critics in the IWC. In my opinion, I think the bigger story in this match is the future of the Judgment Day, especially a potential faction breakup and feud of Balor versus Priest. I might be wrong about this prediction, but just remember it's only an opinion. And finally, Punk and Drew. You're thinking Drew wins to finally get some comeuppance on Punk for the many times Punk had screwed McIntyre. McIntyre needs this win to continue to build up for potential Punk versus Drew at Bash in Berlin and the finale at Bad Blood. I really wish this match was the main event because Seth is most likely going to help McIntyre get the victory with all kinds of in-ring shenanigans. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Anyway, this is DJ Kuzma signing off. Enjoy SummerSlam, have a great weekend, and see you all in the Discord chat for Friday Night SmackDown in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. Thank you, DJ. And we'll get to the Joe Hendry report on the backside of the mailbag portion of the show. Thank you, my friend. Let's go to another patron, and this is Matt. And he says, Matt B, he says, hey, I just wanted to say I do think Seth will turn heel on Saturday. They're obviously building to Seth versus Punk, prematurely if you ask me, but one of them has to be a heel, and it isn't going to be Punk. Also, would you think if WWE kept Roman a heel after his... what would you think if WWE kept Roman a heel after his return? And we all think The Rock is the one pulling the strings behind the new bloodline, but what if it's really Roman? Then that can build for a heel Roman versus babyface Rock at WrestleMania 41. Sorry for the long email. Thank you for your time and have a good vacation. Thank you, Matt. And certainly not a long email. I mean, have you heard our emails before? Certainly not long. Okay, well, I don't think they'll do that. I think that there's too much love for Roman right now. And isn't this where WWE envisioned Roman anyway? Isn't this the destination they wanted him to be at? It would make no sense for them to try to flip back, because also The Rock, in his current character, again, we haven't seen him in 4 months, but when he comes back, he should be the final boss. It was working. There's a lot of tread left on that tire. There's more story to tell with the final boss character. I don't think there's any reason to try to flip it. Don't force things. I mean, I would have loved, honestly, a babyface Rock versus heel Roman. That's the match I was hoping for. It doesn't look like we're going to get that. We'll get the match, I think, but I think it's going to be with the roles reversed, with The Rock as a heel, Roman as babyface, when that match does happen. But, good question. And, I do think that it's getting close to a Roman return, and Rock return for that matter. All right, let's go to Dino with more SummerSlam predictions, and he says Sammy retains, Logan Paul retains, Liv Morgan retains, Tiffany Stratton will cash in her Money in the Bank and become the new women's champion regardless of what happens or who wins that match. Drew beats CM Punk. I have a feeling that match will end in a no contest when Seth starts beating both men with a steel chair. Damian Priest retains against Gunther. And here's the boldest prediction. Solo Sikoa will be the new undisputed champion. Well, okay. That would be insane. And I don't mean that in a way that your prediction's insane. I mean that would be bold by WWE, as you just put it. Because they just told us that Cody's ushering in a new era at WrestleMania 40. When you're ushering in a new era, what kind of message would it send fans when they turn around and then put that very championship that Cody fought to claim for 2 years right back on a guy that helped take it off of him or kept him from it, especially at WrestleMania 39? Be ballsy. I don't even think bold is enough to say what it would do and what it would mean. I think ballsy is certainly the word. All right. So Roman will not return here, but in fact, it will be The Rock who comes out and gives Cody a rock bottom and then possibly a Samoan spike from Solo. 1, 2, 3. And Solo's the new undisputed champion. This, in my opinion, will make the new bloodline look very strong ahead of Roman's highly anticipated return, especially when Jacob Fatu and company become new tag team champions on SmackDown Friday. Yes, that's another prediction. I think we'll wait a little longer for Roman and with Cody getting his rematch against Solo at Bad Blood, and I think this is where Roman returns, costing Solo the match and helping Cody in front of his hometown crowd in Atlanta, cementing Roman as the babyface and Solo and his team as heels ahead of Survivor Series. That is a really smart prediction, Dino. This is why I've been saying for months, there's really no bad way to do this. There's good ways, very good ways, great ways, but there's no really bad way to do this. I mean, you can't almost. But I really do like that. It's something I never thought about. Now, I floated out there that it's possible Roman does not come back at SummerSlam. Well, myself included, have believed for a while that it's a foregone conclusion he does. It's the biggest event of the summer, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to make it WrestleMania this summer. People are going to be angry. But let The Rock return. Let Roman come back at you. That's a great... I like this. I really do. Now, is it going to change my predictions? We'll see. But this is a really good one, guys. Think about that. Just let me repeat what Dino said here, because it's very possible. I mean, the only kind of fly in the ointment, as they say, is that Cody dropping the belt this early, are they really willing to anger the fans, the very ones that they appease to at WrestleMania 40? Are they really willing to do that? That's a bold, ballsy move. But The Rock returning to help cost Cody the match, and then Roman being the counter to The Rock? Ooh. I mean, I love that. All right, lastly, imagine Jay had won Money in the Bank. He could have cashed in when everyone least expected it at Survivor Series against Cody, especially if what they're doing now is planting seeds for War Games with Cody and either Randy or Kevin Owens joining him, or joining Roman and Jamie and Jay. That was originally part of lost my place. That was originally part of the idea of Money in the Bank, was it not? For the briefcase holder to cash in right when we least expected. Imagine how crazy and wild that could have been. I should add, however, that personally I think that it'll be Sammy who fills in one of the two spots on Roman's team for War Games, and that makes the most sense with him having been part of the original Bloodline. Enjoy SummerSlam and let me hear you say yeet. Yeah. I mean, I think Sammy is on his way back to the OG Bloodline. I mean, that's why Jay has been essentially doing jack. That's why many people are believing Sammy could drop the belt at SummerSlam. Everybody's positioning, all the chess pieces are being positioned for this Civil War Part 2 with the OG Bloodline versus the Savage Bloodline. I don't know how they're being branded, but everything is being lined up for that. Jimmy has been MIA. Jay has done nothing of substance. He could easily be removed from Raw. He's not involved in anything deep. He's flirting with Rhea Ripley. That's the biggest thing he's got going on right now. Is trying to chase Rhea Ripley. So he certainly could just be removed and be put over on SmackDown temporarily. Or, that's the one thing. How are they going to manage? How is WWE, post Vince McMahon, going to manage this story that inevitably will happen with Jay and with Sammy both on Raw? Roman's on SmackDown. I think Jimmy is too. Do they just bring him over? Do they do an official trade? Or do they pull the Vince McMahon and just go, who cares? They don't care. Fans don't care as long as they're here. We're not going to give them an explanation. We'll see. All right. Dino, you always make me think, man. All right. Let's go to another patron, I think. Joel. Joel G. He says, hey, Matt and WWE Podcast family, longtime listener, two-time caller, and first-time emailer. All right, well, we are keeping track at home. So those of you that need to know, Joel is a longtime listener, two-time caller, and first-time emailer. So I hope you put that on your resume, Joel. Every time you're applying for a job, I hope that that's something you let your employer know. Recently signed up for the Raw tier, and I'm super happy with my decision. Well, very, very cool. This weekend, I'll be celebrating my 40th birthday. Oh, man, you're older than me by 6 months. So happy birthday. And, 40 is a pretty big one, right? I don't know. I mean, as men, I feel like our brains just freeze at 24, but our body continues to age. Maybe it's maybe I'm just the only deformed one. I don't know. Anyway, you're attending your first PLE. Not many opportunities in Canada, and few outside house shows at a Monday Night Raw in 2000. I haven't been to many live shows. I've been a fan my entire life and have forgotten more about wrestling than most people remember. I'm really excited about the entire card, and I'm really hoping for the return of the true tribal chief. If you're looking for an in-person review, I'd be happy to lend you my services. It could work since I have a young family, a big boy job too, and live in Eastern Standard Time. Oh, you're lining up all the pieces. I see. Well, here's the thing. You are in the Raw tier, so you are eligible for that. So reach out to me on Patreon. All right, we'll set up something because you actually are owed that on the Raw tier. So that'd be kind of cool. P.S. We could be twins with our views on things. Glad to have a partner in You Only Hate Me Because I'm Right Club. Keep telling the truth, not some lame beta version of your opinion substitute by the word truth. Yeah, Joel, I appreciate that. And, there's more to come on that. And for those of you that are wondering what the hell I'm talking about, there are things that I'm going to venture outside of wrestling and probably talk about. And this may take the form of a separate podcast altogether. It may take form of something behind a paywall on Patreon. or something else. I don't know. But I have to say, guys, and I mean this in the best way. Well, I love wrestling. I love it. I wouldn't dedicate the last 10 years of my life to doing a podcast if I didn't. Long nights I actually, and guys, embarrassing I've fallen asleep on the show. I've fallen asleep with co-hosts because it's been so damn late. I've been up 2 a.m. talking to co-hosts post PLEs before. Like there have been times where, like it's been bad, and I've fallen asleep on my keyboard. I've barely made it to the microphone. There are some nights I don't have any interest in doing this because I'm so tired. But I love it, and you guys love it too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here listening. And we all appreciate that. But I will say, there's other things and other topics that I'm chomping at the bit that I'm equally as passionate about, if not right now more. Not that it's stopped my love for wrestling. I will always love wrestling, and this show will always exist. But there's other things that within the confines of this show I can't talk about because we don't. We try to keep the best we can to wrestling. We really do. We keep the best we can to wrestling. It doesn't always happen, but you don't tune into a wrestling podcast to hear about other stuff. It doesn't make sense. So anyway, Joel, good stuff, man. Give me a shout on Twitter, Patreon. Hit me up on Patreon, and we'll figure out something. All right. We will definitely convene. I will say, if you're looking for a time, Sunday night might be the best. Like 9:30 or so at night, Eastern Standard Time, because I'll be back by then in my home studio here, and we'll be able to chat. So on that topic, though, guys, I want to just mention one thing about Logan Paul. If you guys haven't seen, he's getting a ton of heat. For a tweet that he put out on X, or a post. Do you still call it a tweet if it's not Twitter? I don't know. Semantics. And it's about and I'm talking about this because Logan Paul is a WWE superstar. Like, he's a wrestler. He's our current standing U.S. champion. And I'm mentioning this because he is that. And that's why. Okay, so those of you, don't dive into this stuff. Well, he's WWE, so I'm going to talk about it. He is getting a ton of heat from some portion, a segment of the mob that don't like his comments about how basically men and women should not compete in sports. Because if those of you that saw in the Olympics, there was a biological man, which, by the way, there's only a man by definition is biological. Okay, I don't care what's going on in your head. The reality that we all live in is either you're a man or you're not. Like, I love when they say biological man or biological woman. It's kind of redundant. To me, it's like, well, yeah, there's no other kind. But I pissed off some people, I'm sure, already saying that. Anyway, Logan Paul essentially said that. And then he got a ton of backlash. He actually deleted the post. There was 11 million views on that post before he deleted it. And I'm sure more now, but everything lives on in the internet. And people are losing their minds over it. For a statement that how up until about 12 seconds ago, saying that men and women should not compete in sports together would be the most uncontroversial thing you could ever say. Right? I was only up until recently that it's offensive to say. But I'll pause there, and maybe that'll be something I talk about on another show, another podcast, another outlet. I'll just leave it there because it is WWE relevant, because he's getting a ton of heat and attention, and people are calling for WWE to fire him, calling for, TKO to fire him, have him drop his championship, all this stuff. Not everybody, but those of those anti-reality people. Anyway, thank you, Joel. Again, get in touch with me on Patreon. All right. Boy, oh boy. Okay, I'm only going to do a couple more here. Let's talk about... Oh, boy. This could... all right, well, let's see. Let's see what happens. Guys, by the way, please, if you are a patron, put it in the subject that you're a patron, because I don't know if you don't do it. All right. Let's talk to Drew. Drew Hill. He says, Hey, Matt, WWE Podcast. Lifelong fan, been a fan of the podcast and Patreon for a minute. Well, thank you. Just going to cut to the chase. I'm gay and was really taken back by the comments on the latest mailbag regarding LGBT ideologies as being cancer. Like, I really want to give the benefit of the doubt here, but that was a crazy thing to hear on a podcast that I really enjoy, talking about a sport or a product I really love. I'm assuming you meant regarding trans issues in the ring, which obviously is a very complicated issue, but it definitely came off as just you didn't want any gay stuff or people involved. Oh, this is going to be a fun response. Can you feel it building? With wrestling at all, I'm not asking you to clear it up on the podcast because I don't want to set you off on another rant, even though I just want to have a discussion over email or something that would love to. I really don't want to stop listening to the podcast because I do love it, but yeah, that was really off-putting to hear in the morning. Still love the pod for the most part, especially when you're talking about wrestling. Have a good. Well, Drew, listen. This is exactly why I need another outlet to talk about issues that have nothing to do with wrestling in another outlet under the correct category for a podcast that people want to hear that talked about. But since you're asking, this is really not complicated. This is the simplest thing in the world for me and for a lot of people. This goes across the board for all sports, whether it's wrestling, pro wrestling, whether it's MLB, NFL, whatever. Here's how it is, and this is how it's been since the dawn of time. Men compete with men, women compete with women. End of story. That's it. That's all I'm asking for things to just stay the same. I don't see a system that's broken. And here's what's going to happen. And I know your belief is probably, I'm guessing, although I may not be wrong or right, but I'm going under the assumption that you're guessing, or your belief, one of your beliefs would be that trans men, biological women, would be and should be allowed to compete in the gender that they identify with, right? I'm going to guess that's the case. And if that's the case, well, then you are going to end up in a scenario, we are going to end up in a scenario where women who are really biological men that are identifying as women are going to be put in a position where someone's going to die. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. I don't mean that try to be dramatic. Until a woman or a man who identifies as a woman, or vice versa, specifically a woman who's identifying as a man, it gets involved in a man's sport, or a man goes into a woman's sport identifying as a woman, until someone dies, and I think it's going to happen, I think that this chaos will continue to play out until its logical conclusion. Because science, because men are inherently stronger, faster, by a large margin than women. This is why we categorize sports into men and women, which has been going on forever. Forever. And suddenly, suddenly, some of these sports are saying, well, wait, if someone identifies, well, okay, fine. Why don't we put some of the women in the NFL this year? Put a trans man in the, as a linebacker. See if they don't get killed or critically injured within 10 seconds of the whistle blowing. That's my problem. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. But if ideology and if identity, if someone's own personal issues going on in their head is something that everyone else in this world has to then abide by or will hurt their feelings, well, then someone's going to die in contact sports. I mean, it just is. That's reality. That's it. That's what I'm asking for, is just a fair, competitive playing field where you're not risking women getting killed in their own sport. Or, for that matter, getting their opportunities taken from them, and that's happening a lot. So it's all I want. Is just why are we trying to blow up things? Why are we trying to blow up the system? Is all I'm asking. Because the second you inject that, especially into pro wrestling, the sport's dead. The sport's going to die. It won't happen. I don't think it'll happen to the degree of actually killing the sport. But imagine, because And it's not complicated. I know it's, it's saying it's a complicated issue. It's not. It's not complicated. I just laid it out. Men with men, women with women. That's it. That's all there is. That's all. And hey, if I understand, if you don't want to keep listening to the pod, hey, it's totally your call, dude. Totally understand if you don't. I'm not sitting here begging anyone to listen to me. I never do, never will. But I also will never bend to anyone because they are uncomfortable with what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you or Drew. I'm saying anybody. I'm talking really wrestling, especially, that they want me to always stop criticizing the product or oh, well, you're always negative. Well, here's the thing. Either you can debate my issue I have with the product, or you can complain about my complaining. And some people miss the hypocrisy in that. That's just always a fun one. So, I mean, that's the one thing I will always be, is 100% real on this show. I have no affiliations with WWE. They're not sending me any money to sing their praises, and I call them out when I see it. That's it. So, hey, Drew, listen, if I'd like you to stay with us, but if you don't, I get it. I understand. But all right, cool. All right, boy, this is getting fun, isn't it, guys? Getting fun. This show. This is. I'm telling you, I need something else. I need something else. It can't continue on WWE podcast. I'm bursting at the seams with some stuff. Well, let's actually go to. I mean, somebody else messaged me here. This is Jason. He says, I appreciate the time you took to read my letter. A great explanation of your stance, which even managed to get you sidetracked on a rant about the women or men in wrestling. So to continue this debate, oh boy, you basically said you had that the women who sexualize themselves shouldn't complain that they get unwanted negative attention, but shouldn't we expect better from society? It's not okay that the male-dominated audience give negative attention. That's why Chelsea Green posts the way posts that we, the audience, need to keep our, quote, D in our pants. Well, I'm a simple man, and I love what some of my favorite females dress like. Hold on, let me read that. While I'm a simple man, and I love that some of my favorite females dress like escorts, I'll give them the social media traffic and say great body and thank you, but I won't cross the line with harassment. We, the male audience, need to have self-control. We're no better than the men in Saudi Arabia. Okay, well, I would never, and I don't mean this as satire or trying to be funny, I would not advocate for anybody harassing any of the talent, actual harassment, okay? That doesn't mean saying something to the talent that they don't like. There's a difference between voicing your opinion and harassment. Like, harassment is continued, a continued barrage of just negative comments trying on multiple channels. It's just constant and unwanted, right? But the occasional passing comment, some people try to categorize as harassment when it's just simply they don't like what someone said. Now, again, with that said, I would never, and I really don't advocate anybody to harass any of the talent. It's just, there's no need for that. But shouldn't we expect better from society? Well, yeah, except have you seen what society values today and like what has kind of devolved into? I mean, why do you think, and this is, sure, things have gotten worse in some respects since the 90s, but when the women were ultra sexualized in the 90s, they were very popular, but really for one reason, because of how they looked. That's it. The wrestling came second, or not even it wasn't even a factor for some of the stars, like Sable. Does anybody know a match Sable was involved in at all? No. Sable became a star because she was a pretty blonde. She posed in Playboy that was very successful. That's it. Sunny, same thing. Terry Runnels, same thing, although I don't think she did Playboy. I could be wrong. Among others. So, like, yeah, you can expect better, but you're not going to get better. And also, you're never going to supersede men's biology. Never. I'm not saying the biology to harass. That's not a biological precondition. But men being visual creatures, much more so than women, when it comes to attraction, it's never going to change. That's how we are hardwired. That's it. So, like, now that should not, and again, I will continue to say, should not manifest itself in harassment. You know, like it shouldn't. But women cannot expect to dress like they do on social media, put it out there voluntarily. These aren't people digging out old iCloud accounts and hacking phones and posting unwanted pictures. These are all pictures being put on social media by these women who are public figures to begin with, done voluntarily, when it's, you know, they're wearing next to nothing, and then men comment on it and they're shocked and appalled by the reaction, as if they suddenly don't understand how men are wired. Again, doesn't excuse harassment. Okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, though, you can't expect men to just go, oh, okay, yeah, cool, and move on. Most men have an opinion. If it's not vocalized, it is now internalized as to how you're being perceived. Because now men look at you and you are telling us how you want to be perceived, so we perceive you in a more sexual light. But then when we do that, you're being a chauvinist. Well, you're wearing nothing. So you do one thing and then get mad at the reaction that men will naturally react to. And then suddenly we're the problem. Now, again, we have our problems. Men, you know, certainly go off the rails, say inappropriate things. I mean, just gross things online that just, you know, it's kind of like grow up kind of stuff. Absolutely. I'm not advocating for any of that stuff. But for men that want to advocate for women in wrestling, trying to focus on wrestling the best I can, that want to see women's wrestling progress, hey, I think it's done without that stuff. Done better without that stuff. In fact, women's wrestling has progressed in spite of that stuff. How did women succeed in the women's revolution? Was it done with bikini contests? Was it done with pillow fights? Was it done with Playboy spreads? No. It was done with in-ring competition, re-educating the audience that women can have badass matches too, creating storylines that you could relate to, characters that aren't sexualized. Women stop being objectified, and poof, like magic, women have their own Royal Rumble. They have their own Money in the Bank. They have headlined WrestleMania. They had their own Women's Evolution pay-per-view that I feel like they should do again, but I don't know why they haven't. I mean, like, so I'm actually for women continuing to move up in wrestling. Now, again, I don't want them to wear potato sacks. I'm fine with athletic wear. You have to wear something comfortable, safe, and also something that's flashy. It's a tough combination. I understand that. But when you wear something like Rhea Ripley wore on Raw, which is essentially a nightgown, I mean, you are doing that for one reason. That's attention. That's it. And to show off her, I'm sorry, no, I'm not, my opinion, her horrible tattoos. I think they're horrible. There's too many. There's some dark implications there. And you know why I can comment on them? Because she's a public figure that puts herself voluntarily out there. I think they're horrible. Is she as a character great? Yes. Is she very good in the ring? Yes. Is she one of the biggest women stars in wrestling? Yes. Is she intriguing to watch? Is she still a big star? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean I have to just praise every aspect of her from all angles. So when I see something on her that's horrible and that she wants us to see, but then I'm supposed to ignore it? Yeah, that's not how my brain operates. Sorry. You are a public figure because you want to be. No one's forcing you into this profession. And then you're wearing things that you voluntarily agree to wear. In fact, probably came up with yourself. And then you're doing it for attention, to show off your tattoos, to show off your body, which is, there's no other reason to do it. There's no, like, tell me another reason to do it. There's none. Those are the only options. And then when I comment on it in a way that is not very complimentary, I'm the bad guy. You know, it's very backwards. So, and I'm sure some of you heard, he wants The Handmaid's Tale to be real. Sure. Like, whatever. That's not even close. I want women to move forward. And they've done that without this crap. And then now it seems like some of them are going back to it on social media and now on camera. And I wonder what's going to happen when you have the handcuffs off, so to speak, and there's really no there's no PG rating anymore, and they're on Netflix in January. Look out. I mean, I don't want any of that stuff. If you guys want content that has a lot of women with no clothes on it, no clothes on them, little to no clothes, well, rumor has it, I haven't really checked this out, so I could be wrong, but rumor has it that there's like some of that stuff on the internet floating around. You might have to dig really deep to find it, but apparently there's like pictures, a couple pictures of women online that you can Google. I don't know. I don't take my word for it. Just, I guess, go look for yourself. You know what I mean, though? That's not what I come to wrestling for. That's not. And I love women's wrestling, and I want them to continue. And when I see things that'll pull them back, I call that out. All right, boy. All right, well, Jason, what's your final point here? We got to move on. Here's an analogy for you. Say when you get on a rant, your voice becomes so sexy that women start giving you unwanted, unsolicited sexual advances. Should you change? Change your voice or never get on a rant again, or should they control themselves? Okay. Well, so your analogy of me, so when I get on that rant, so the rant I just had, right? You're saying that if that triggered women to start giving you unwanted or unsolicited sexual advances. So, you know, it's a shame that that's not true. I'd be yelling a lot more in front of my wife. I mean, you know, maybe that's the trick. Maybe that's the problem. I should just start ranting more. That's what it is. Jason, you gave me an idea. Boy, genius. But seriously, okay, I think there are things that people do all the time that other people are attracted to, but you have to internalize it. This is what I'm saying. You can be attracted to someone from something that they've done. I've never said that people shouldn't control themselves from a physical standpoint or acting like animals. I've never advocated for that. I mean, by the way, it's also against the law. So, like, if someone had unwanted, unsolicited sexual activities, like, I mean, I just, you know, and I didn't want them and it continued. I mean, that's what the police are for. I was like, hey, yeah, this woman won't leave me alone. Press charges. I mean, there are laws in this country against that. So there's that. But here's also the one big difference, and then I promise I'm going to move on, guys. Should I change? Meaning, I know what you're getting at. Oh, so, well, if you do this and someone's attracted to it, well, shouldn't you change? You're saying you should change. Well, no, here's the difference. I'm doing something normal that is not meant to draw that attention. The women that I talked about that are posting on social media and now bringing it on air, especially Rhea Ripley, who's been kind of the focal point of my argument for this whole thing. That is done with the express intent of drawing that attention. So when you expressly ask for that attention, get it, and then say you don't want it, That's different than doing something normal, like talking or ranting, whatever you want to say, and then someone, making an advance on you for doing something that's normal that is not expressly, doesn't have the express intent of drawing that attention. That's the difference. All right. Boy, this is getting wild tonight. This is getting wild. Some of you probably tuned out. Oh man, I told you this is why I gotta do something else. I gotta do something else, guys. It's getting too much. Okay, I'm just gonna get to the SummerSlam mailbag or the SummerSlam predictions here because I am limited on time. I can't tonight. There's just too many emails. I apologize. We've gone on a little bit long. So let's get to them. Let's get to them right now. So we're gonna talk about CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Let me talk about them right now. I think here are my official predictions. I think Drew McIntyre wins. He needs a victory in the worst way. He has been so good for so long with his heel character, and all of a sudden he just can't win that big one. He got screwed by Punk how many times since WrestleMania? A lot of it was brought on by Drew himself. But it's time for Drew to get a victory here. And sure, Seth could be turning heel here. He could. In fact, I wouldn't put it past Seth Rollins to be actually turning heel. But it's also very possible that actually Seth Rollins is not involved in the final count. Meaning, Seth maybe stomps someone, and then Drew hits a Claymore or Punk hits a GTS on Seth. Seth's knocked out, and then another referee has to come in to replace Seth Rollins, and they're the ones that actually make the final count. And then at the end of the match, there's a brawl, or maybe Seth hits a stomp on Punk. It's going to be chaos. I mean, I don't even want to try to pretend I know the details about, Seth will do this and then Drew will do that. All these men are going to hit finishes on one another. Probably by the end of the match, everyone's going to get hit with at least one or two finishes. So ultimately, though, I think Drew wins. And it's, from what I understand, this is a one and done for these two, though. I've heard it's a one and done. If that's the case, then they might move right into Seth and Punk. They might. This is interesting. This is an interesting one, but I think McIntyre comes out on top. Nia Jax and Bayley. This has got to be Nia Jax's moment, and I like the emailer who said it could be Naomi. Was it? No. Email. I mean, DJ. DJ, it was you, right? You're the one that proposed that Nia is going to win because Naomi turns heel. I love that. I love Naomi actually being relevant for doing something beyond feel the glow. Look at my glow. Glow, 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 glow. There's been like no real push for her since her return at the Rumble. So this would be a nice change for her. Am I predicting it? No, but I think by hook or crook, Nia Jax wins, and she should. She's deserving of it. All right. Rhea and Liv. I think Liv retains, as I've said all along. I think that Liv is really settling into herself here, settling into her character very nicely. I think Dom is directly responsible for this. He turns completely on Rhea Ripley, helps Liv. This isn't a maybe he accidentally, didn't mean to, screwed up. No. Dom deliberately costs Rhea with no questions. Liv retains. They make out as Rhea is standing at their feet. That's what I'm envisioning. Knight versus Paul. It's time for L.A. Knight. Yeah, it is. Because L.A. Knight has not held a singles championship in WWE. It's a crime. That crime needs to be rectified. That sin needs to be absolved. And I think it's time for L.A. Knight to finally claim that championship. In what I think is going to be a hell of a match. Braun Breaker versus Sammy. I'm leaning Braun, but I could also see Sammy retaining here. I mean, he did beat the longest reigning IC champ of all time. Braun, though, is on a roll. He already lost to Sammy, so he can't continue to lose a guy that is a kind of a side focal point of Raw. You got to give him a championship, but is he ready for it? Is Braun Breaker really ready for it? Or does it feel a little too soon still? There's that argument. This is tough. This is one I would kind of stay away from money-wise. I think Braun probably wins, so I'll go with him, but only slightly. A slight favorite that Braun Breaker wins here. And mainly, not only because he does kind of need a victory, but really more importantly, as you guys have been talking about earlier, they're positioning him, the chess pieces are being positioned for a Roman Reigns return where Sami is part of it. Now, you could also argue that Sami's not going to be brought in right away, so he could have another month or two with that belt, and that's true. This is also why I think Sami has a strong but not overwhelming chance to retain. This is a really tough one. Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa. I think Rhodes retains. They're going to want to continue with that. I think, does Roman return? Boy, probably, but I would not guarantee it. I'd say it's like an 80% chance. Knowing WWE, yes, but would I hold off? Actually, I would. But there's a lot of people going there that are expecting Roman to return, and if they don't bring Roman out, they're going to be angry. There's going to be a lot of people really pissed off if Roman does not come back here. But if I was WWE, I would forge ahead with my plan. And my plan would not be to have him return here. I really wouldn't. But they'll probably do it. Do I think they will? Yes. And I think Rhodes returns. Now, is Jimmy in tow? Is Paul Heyman going to be there? Likely. But the thing is, there are so many people expecting it that Paul Levesque has to be thinking about, guys, this is such an overwhelming anticipated return. Do we wait or do we pull the trigger? Do we want that element of surprise or do we not? I think it would have been, if they're actually going to bring Roman back at SummerSlam all along, and that was their plan, I don't know why Solo keeps bringing him up. The surprise element has been just completely shattered because of that. Solo brought Roman's name in voluntarily on a weekly basis. It's like, dude, shut up. We all were anticipating this. Now that you're bringing it up, it's kind of ruining it. So if that was the plan, I'm going to, that's just, I think, my personal preference. It's not my favorite way to bring someone back. So we'll see. But I think Roman does return, even though I wouldn't do it. All right, Priest versus Gunther. This is also tough. This is another one. This is like a Braun and Sami match. And I just don't know on this one. Because every time we think Priest is going to lose, he's a transitional champion, blah, blah, blah. He retains. Now this is Gunther. He's a different animal. Right? Different animal, a guy that is destined for world title gold. It's a big platform, a big stage. Do you want to pull the trigger? Tempting. But Priest has been doing a very good job. Not just serviceable, but very good. And improving. It's tough. It's a tough one. I think Judgment Day gets involved here. What do I think? I would say this is. I'm hesitant to say Gunther, even though that's what I want to say, because Triple H has been very hesitant to do title changes unless there's a real reason for it. He's very much a guy of long title runs, and I've already propositioned how many title changes? One. Oh, wait a minute. I've propositioned 1, 2. So Nia wins, Knight wins. So there's 2 title changes. I'm saying Braun Breaker. I that's a lot of title changes. So I'm probably going to say Priest retains. Incredibly, Priest retains. But 50-50 on this damn thing. The thing is, the Judgment Day being involved in this one poses a problem because they have had issues. The Judgment Day and Priest have had their issues well documented. And Priest is a babyface in what is otherwise a heel group other than Rhea Ripley and Carlito, who's just a comedic relief in the group. But you have Finn and JD that are heels. Dom, obviously a heel. And so you have those guys that are eventually going to screw them over. And saying, oh, you never needed us. You told us you never needed us. You know what? I'm going Gunther. I'm switching. I'm going Gunther because the more interesting solution here is Priest then feuding with, his team that screwed him over, maybe unintentionally, at least on the surface, that's what they're saying. They cost him the belt. Gunther gets anointed as champion. So I'm going Gunther. Let's do that. It's going to be a big title change night. And Gunther wins the world championship. But I'm still 50-50. It's literally a coin toss for me. It's a coin toss. I'm going to go Gunther, though, for those aforementioned reasons. Priest has shown he's a respectable world champion. He's established himself now. And you can continue the program with the Judgment Day and Priest falling apart, and they'll feud with one another. So that's what I think. A lot of matches on this card, so that's why I think they're going to try to split it into two nights. Triple H typically has been doing, 5 matches on a card. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches, which is a lot for a Triple H PLE. So I still think it'll be a great event. Do I think The Rock's coming back? Probably not, but we're now getting into the season since Mania. It's been 4 months. We can start to now talk about it at least. I think probably not, but I'd give it like a 10-20% chance he shows up and maybe helps Solo, as an emailer earlier said. And do I think Roman returns? I think there's a much higher likelihood. I'd give it 75-80% that he returns. Do I think Charlotte Flair, there's a name I haven't said yet, returns? I think that's a very high probability. I think 90% chance she returns. Where does she return? Maybe she could be the reason that Bayley loses to Nia Jax. So I think Charlotte returns, or she could be the reason after the match that she confronts Nia. How about that? How about Nia, has her championship moment, Charlotte returns, stares her down. If Charlotte does not appear at SummerSlam, I'm steadfast on her returning at the SmackDown after SummerSlam. Yeah, any other returns I'm not really seeing at the forefront here. I'm not really feeling it. It's kind of where I'm at. So, all right. Well, a very, very charged up podcast here. Very charged up podcast episode. I didn't expect it. I didn't pre-read the emails, so I probably should start doing that moving forward. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that, some of you guys hate when I talk about that stuff, but that's why I said, for all this stuff you're hearing that is not really wrestling related, that kind of thing is going to be put somewhere else. It's going to be directed at another, probably a totally new podcast. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Now, I do have one more mailbag. Again, this is from Milan. He is a patron, so I do want to get to him. So, Milan, let me read it because you are a patron. So you're saying that I know a lot of people are thinking Roman's coming back at SummerSlam, but I'm thinking he's either going to return to SmackDown before or after. It makes sense he comes back during a promo where microphones are involved and he can confront Solo just like The Rock does when he comes back. There's not going to be a promo at SummerSlam and Roman's not coming in to save anyone. I think the spotlight after the Cody Solo match will be on Cody. In the Cody match with Solo, the ref typically gets knocked out. The Bloodline terrorize Cody and look like they're going to cheat to win, but then Randy Orton comes out, fights off the Bloodline, just as the two celebrate together, and it's just about to go off the air, and Randy RKO's Cody. That's not so bad. As far as Roman goes, my prediction is that he comes out on SmackDown this week with Paul Heyman, tells Solo he disapproves of his actions, and that he will fall in line if he beats Cody, which obviously doesn't happen. He may be at SummerSlam, but just seen in the press box showing anger or disapproval. And next week, SmackDown, Roman asks for the Tribal Chief's necklace, just as Solo looks like he's going to give it to him. The Tongas and Solo attack Roman, but Jacob Fatu holds back, which starts a new storyline about Fatu being torn on who to align with. Eventually, Fatu will leave Solo and join Roman, but not right away. Well, yeah, Milana, this is all... See, this is also a fun storyline you built in my brain. That's a good problem to have if you're WWE. Is there always going to be a better way to do this? Yes. Always. But you got to pick the best way you know how at that moment and go with it. There's really no bad way. See how many awesome ways there are to bring this whole storyline together? This is one they, again, famous last words, but they can't screw it up, can they? I have faith in Paul Levesque. I do. So, yeah. Let me make sure I don't have any other patron emails, guys, because I know that the patrons do definitely get the priority here. And I'm going into my Patreon directly. And let's see here. I've got Charlie. Okay, Charlie, let's get to your predictions real quick. Braun Breaker wins. LA Knight wins. Liv Morgan beats Rhea. Drew beats CM Punk with Rollins screwing Punk, and then finally getting everyone Punk and Rollins. Bayley beats Nia to retain. Tiffany cashes in, attempts to cash in, Tiffany Stratton, to become the new champion. After the match, Brock Lesnar returns to confront Gunther. Ooh, I didn't even think of Brock. Thank you. Cody beats Solo to retain the championship, and during the match, Jimmy and Jay somehow come out to help Cody while Tama Tonga beats Cody, and this leads to Roman and Paul Heyman's return and sets up a War Game match at Survivor Series. Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate that. Yeah, Brock Lesnar, I think, is not likely, but possible. I like it. I like it a lot. So, very cool. Very, very cool. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I know that there's a couple voicemails out there I didn't get to. I just, it's time. And if I do have another podcast that I'm developing, and I am developing something here that in the meantime, I will let you guys know what it is and the name of it, where you can find it. And it will not be about wrestling, because I feel like I'm being pulled somewhere else right now. Wrestling is still my first love, my passion, but it doesn't mean you can't have more than one. And I feel like I'm being kind of pulled away from wrestling into another venture at this point. And again, this show's not going anywhere, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now with other things going on. So anyway, that'll do it for me tonight, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can go on Patreon. You can go ad-free. We're going to be here throughout the entire SummerSlam weekend. We've still got the whole, what is it? After Dark. For those of you at the SmackDown tier and above, you get the After Dark show. That's coming very, very soon. You've also got the SmackDown review with Amanda from the UK, and you've got my SummerSlam review, which will be Sunday night. So Sunday night, when I come back, I'll do the SummerSlam review again. If something wild happens, and that's very possible, I'm bringing my phone and a lapel mic that I'm going to do some recording on, and maybe give you guys a quick recap or a instant reaction from my remote location, my undisclosed location. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Enjoy SummerSlam. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.